So, Ginger.
Yeah?
You know how we wanted to start a podcast, but we were having trouble coming up with a topic?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my pitch. The topic of the podcast is us trying to come up with the topic for the podcast.
What, like we pitch each other podcast ideas and that's the podcast?
Yeah, exactly. We could call it, What Should Our Podcast Be About?
Miles, that's really stupid. Let's do it.
What should this song be about? I'm trying to figure it out. What should this song be about? Could you perhaps help me out? I've had a moment of doubt. What should this song be about? Welcome to What Should Our Podcast Be About? A podcast where we try to figure out what this podcast that you're listening to right now should be about. I'm Miles Grover.
And I'm Ginger Barb.
Ginger, do you want to start with the ideas this week?
Sure. So we're just going to jump right into it.
I mean, do you have some bits to do at the start?
I didn't prepare any bits.
Actually, I should say that toilet talk was an unmitigated disaster. We both got arrested as perverts. So we won't be doing that podcast going forward.
Yeah, and I don't think our neighbors like us very much anymore.
Nobody does, actually.
Nobody does.
Nobody likes talking to us anymore. No, but yeah, do you have ideas?
Yeah.
Started?
I can't promise they'll be good ideas, but they'll probably be better than toilet talk.
Now, that's just unfair to the brilliant idea that was toilet talk. No,
I mean, you just got through explaining what an unmitigated disaster it was.
It was good in theory, just not in practice.
Yeah.
Like capitalism.
Right.
Okay. What do you... I think we can, going forward, we can probably just...
Throw toilet talk in the toilet.
That.
Along with capitalism.
And that. But also... another thing we can throw in the toilet is the need to disclaimer our ideas as probably being bad, because that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Blanket disclaimer.
Yes, the ideas are supposed to be bad, and sometimes they turn out sort of good, even though they're bad.
Right.
And that's the sweet spot we're trying to find, basically.
Right. Yeah. I was just pointing out that if we're grading on a scale, I think my ideas will be better than that one, at least. That's not saying a whole lot.
No, it's not. It's really not.
All right. Well, the first idea that I had, remember we talked about on the episode where Svetlana joined us, we talked about Don't Even Get Me Started.
Right.
But we talk about animals.
Yep. Don't even get me started about Venezuelan poodle moths.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And at one point we touched on talking about animals that were trying too hard.
Yep.
So I thought, you know how there's home improvement podcasts.
Okay.
What about an animal improvement podcast?
Okay.
Where we talk about animals that are defective, because let's face it, evolution isn't always perfect.
Animals that are kind of a fixer-upper.
Animals that are kind of a fixer-upper.
We need like Bob Vila to come and tell us how to...
Except we're Bob Vila.
But we're Bob Vila. But, I mean, it's an opportunity to have Bob Vila as a guest on our podcast. Because he is an expert at fixing houses, which means...
Is Bob Vila still alive? I don't follow Bob Vila, so...
I'm pretty sure.
I feel like he comes up when I'm searching for, like, how to hang heavy things on the wall.
Yeah, as far as I know, he's still kicking and still doing his home improvement thing. Although, I'm realizing right now that when I try to picture Bob Vila, every time I get close to picturing what his face looks like, Al Borland from...
I was going to say...
The show Home Improvement appears in my head.
I was going to say, that's what I picture too. Just the sidekick from...
Yeah, Al.
Tool
Al.
Time, right? Yeah, Al.
Al.
Yeah.
Richard Karn is the actor. So it's also an opportunity to have Richard Karn be on our podcast, because they both...
Is Richard Karn still alive?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty sure. And they both would have tips probably on how to improve animals.
That's their whole thing. That's their whole deal.
They have tips on how to improve something.
If you know how to improve one thing, you know how to improve anything.
That's right? Exactly. Anyway, long Bob Vila related tangent aside, it's an interesting idea. Do you have examples or thoughts on what that would be like?
Well, so what made me think of this idea was just when we were discussing weird animals. I think we touched on some weird animals, and one of them that came to mind was that I want to say meerkat, but it's not a meerkat. Lemur. that creepy lemur with the long finger. That'd be an easy one. Just give him all normal fingers.
Or give him all
long fingers.
If one long finger gives him power, surely 10 long fingers will make him more powerful.
Yeah, I guess it would be, we'd have to decide what we meant by improvement. Because, like, by improving, do we mean make weirder and creepier?
Do we mean making an animal that is too powerful?
Yeah.
Because I could imagine, like, how do we improve an octopus? Make it able to go on land. That's way too much power for an octopus. Right?
I like that.
But that's an improvement, so it could be that's our goal.
I like that. So we improve animals by making them infinitely more powerful and terrifying.
Give animals too much power.
Okay.
To right the balance between them and humans who, let's be real, have had too much power on this planet for a good while now.
Give the animals a chance to fight back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
So I guess, because then I guess it's a question of, are we trying to improve animals that have problems, or are we trying to make the animals that are already strong, stronger? Right? Like, we could be improving that batfish, which is just a fish with red lipstick, and we could improve it by giving it some eyeliner.
Right?
Some eyeshadow, maybe.
Turning it up some more.
Yeah, giving it a little blush, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe foundation to even out its weird colors.
So I guess we'd have to decide, going in, what is our goal in fixing up this animal? Is it to make it more powerful? Is it to make it more aesthetically pleasing? Is it to make it more easily able to pick up other fish at the local fish bar?
Right.
That's why that fish looks like that, right?
Tarting them up.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a podcast where we just...
that's why that fish looks like that, right?
Maybe it's a podcast where we just suggest how to tart up every animal. Well, then we get to a sort of a weird
I feel like
situation.
That could get a little weird.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah, okay. But how do we pick what animals to do? That's, I guess, the question, too.
I mean, just Google weird animals.
Whatever's funny.
Just Google weird animals.
Whatever animals are funny.
You're going to find all kinds of stuff.
Google funny weird animals.
I mean, once we run out of ideas, right. I feel like we could probably come up with quite a few just off the top of our heads.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, do you have anything else you want to talk about, or should we move on? That's a good candidate, I would say.
No, yeah, we can move on. Let's hear one of your ideas.
Okay. So I'm not going to preface this, but we know that it's a bad idea to start with. I just prefaced it. Whatever. Okay. Last week, we talked about a breastfeeding podcast, ASMR.
Yeah.
And as I was listening back to that, I was thinking, that's a fetish podcast, right? That's somebody's fetish. And then I thought...
Yeah, for sure.
And then I thought, wait, do fetish podcasts exist? Is that a thing right now? Because it could be a completely untapped market.
I doubt it doesn't exist. It's got to exist.
Well,
did you check?
I haven't checked because I don't know how to check. They're a podcast that was just like trying to get people off is, I would assume, is not allowed on like Apple Podcasts or something. Probably. I haven't checked that either, but it seems like they don't allow porn on the App Store and stuff, right? And this is porn in podcast form.
So I just Googled fetish podcasts, and there are some that come up on pod.cast.io.
Okay.
Which definitely sound like they are actual fetish.
So they don't podcasts. Sound, because I expect there
one's called BDSM at Home.
Well, no, but see, I expect that there are a lot of podcasts where people talk about like how to do BDSM or like fetish culture, or like people who like to dress up like a horse and have sex or whatever, right? Like the culture and stuff of it. But are they podcasts where somebody who can get off to certain, I don't know, if you get off to like a chicken or something, will somebody have a podcast where they pretend to be a sexy chicken? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? That common thing.
Right. That I'm common fetish. I'm not revealing
my own weird fetishes.
That common fetish.
Or anything. Like, the reason I don't think it exists is because it's probably a bad idea, because people listen to podcasts when they're on the train or driving to work or like jogging or whatever, right? Like, so obviously people listen to them in their home as well, but like a lot of the podcast market is places where it wouldn't really work out to try to jerk it. So
Yeah.
but
So is your idea just a fetish podcast?
yeah, trying to tap into the potential market of fetish podcasts, like podcasts that are to get someone off.
Is there a specific
porn podcast, right? Not about porn, not about fetish culture or anything like that, but a podcast where we help somebody get off.
Well, I think part of it is that a large part of the appeal of porn is the visual aspect.
Well, sure, but people read.
Right. No, I mean, there is. I could see like an erotic novel podcast where you're just reading erotic novels.
Yeah, that could be something. But like, I feel like, I mean, based on the idea of,
I don't think this is a particularly funny idea.
I think it's okay. Well, I was just thinking it's funny to try to tap into the untapped porn podcast market, but. Yeah. I guess we can move on.
I mean, I guess we could talk about it some more. I feel like we might be making our podcast more adult this episode.
A little bit. I mean, this proposal would be to make our podcast the most adult.
Well, right.
Right. And I guess what I was hoping for...
Right, because we're definitely actually considering doing this.
Right, of course. I guess what I was hoping for is what would be some funny things for us to do in that genre.
See, that gets dicey to me because I don't want to accidentally kink shame by being like, oh, it would be funny if we insert sexual act in funny costume here, but I don't want to kink shame anybody like by laughing at legitimate kinks, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean...
Because maybe somebody really like does get off to like sexy chickens, and you know what? I mean, if you're not hurting any chickens, I guess it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a fine line maybe between like, if there's somebody out there who would get off to us making chicken sounds in some kind of sexy way, more power to that person, but also that person has to know that's pretty funny. Right? Like, if I got off to chicken stuff, I feel like I would at least recognize that that's pretty weird and funny.
Yeah.
Maybe chicken fetish people don't have a sense of humor. I guess that's...
I don't know any chicken fetish people, so...
I don't think they exist. But then again, everything exists, so maybe they do.
Yeah. We should... I feel like we should point out that if there's any strange creaking noises, it's our son...
Yes.
Playing nearby.
Rory is jumping around in his little jumpy thing, making some sounds.
Okay, well, yeah.
All right, well, maybe it's terrible, but that was an idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if it's terrible. I just, I would want to be careful, and
I think that's a fair point. We don't want to kink shame. We're chicken stuff, sex positive, as long as you're not hurting real chickens.
Please don't hurt any chickens or other animals, really.
Don't hurt animals. That's just a general rule that everybody should live by. Yeah. Okay, well, do you have another idea?
Yeah. Okay, so my other idea was, so it's a review podcast.
Okay.
Where we review TV shows.
Okay.
But we only review TV shows that are aimed at ages 3 and under.
Okay. Like Coco Melons,
yeah,
Caillou, other terrible stuff that sucks.
Yeah, shows that really have no plot because they're for ages like 3 and under.
And the plot is like, we're brushing our teeth today.
Yeah. And
singing a little song or whatever.
Right. I did come up with this while holding our son.
Yeah.
And thinking about what what I might be doing in the near future, and I see watching a lot of those shows in my future.
Yeah, I mean, there are some of those shows that like little kids can watch that are okay. Some that are just weird, like a Teletubbies or something. Mm-hmm. Like, Bluey's pretty decent as far as okay ones go. I don't think it's quite as good as the people who are like, yeah, adults like this show. Like, I watched it a couple times. It was fine.
Yeah.
But
nothing like special about it.
Not something I would watch on my own. But
I don't get all the hullabaloo.
The hullabaloo.
The hullabaloo.
But just to clarify, this is an idea of us torturing ourselves.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I could see that being sort of fun and cathartic to completely blast put Caillou on blast
Right.
for being the awful show it is or whatever.
Because we're going to have to watch these shows probably at some point.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it could be kind of in the vein of those, like, I don't know, have you seen the things on the internet or whatever where people are like reviewing a child's drawing and being like, this sucks, I could do way better than this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I had in mind.
Kind of that energy of like...
Except that these shows are made by adults and not children. So you don't have to feel bad making fun of it because it wasn't actually made by children. It wasn't made by children.
Well, you're not gonna hurt a child's feelings necessarily. People who are adults that make things for children still have feelings. But I think it would be fairly clear that we weren't really serious about it. But
we'd probably have to put a disclaimer like, don't let your children listen to this episode.
Right.
We don't want to destroy any children's favorite shows.
All of these episodes, because this is our new podcast we're working on.
Right. That's what I meant. Yeah,
I think the energy of it could be pretty fun to be like, this show is so fucking repetitive. Why? I don't care about the color red. I don't need to hear about it over and over again or whatever, right? Or like, yeah, I know how to count to 7. Thanks. Really helpful. Right? Like, treat it like it's for adults.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good. That could be fun.
And maybe review it in a way that's kind of just kind of snobby and, I just found this episode completely derivative,
Yeah.
Just like you're reviewing like high art.
Right. Or like, this is totally ripping off this video I saw on YouTube.
Yeah.
That because a lot of those shows did come from like random weird stuff on YouTube.
And that would be fun too, because then we could say we don't just have to say bad things about the shows. We could find good things about the shows too. It's like, I felt like this latest episode was really existential and just read way too much into the children's show.
Like the symbolism of the number 7 being the color blue and how sad the number 7 can be.
Right.
Or like,
because of lucky number 7, but
your luck's just running out. Yeah. And we could get really pretentious about it and be like,
pretentious. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, get really pretentious and like highbrow about it. Like, like, I don't know if it was the intention of the authors of this episode of Curious George, but the author is dead, and so regardless of the intention, the way that Dr. Pizza made me feel when he launched Curious George into space was transcendent. Right? That's a real thing that happened in an episode of Curious George, just for those.
Is it really?
Who don't know. I've watched a fair few episodes of Curious
George.
There's
a Dr. Pizza in Curious George?
There is. There's a character called Dr. Pizza, and he's an astrophysicist or something. Or he works at NASA or something.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's
and
excellent.
He also, if I recall, he thinks it's creepy when fish look at him. That's what I remember from a certain episode.
I feel like I need to watch more Curious George now.
It's okay. It's kind of the same plot every time.
Curious George is probably like a little higher up in age, though, than what I was thinking.
That's true. It might be a little higher.
But we could, there's some
Curious George there. Also, is he even a monkey? He doesn't have a tail.
He doesn't have a tail?
He does not have a tail.
Are you sure?
Positive. Absolutely positive.
I'm not going to Google it. We'll just
you can just trust me. Just trust me. Curious George does not have a tail. To be fair, I believe there are some old world monkeys that don't have tails, but not many.
Why do you know that?
Why do I know facts about monkeys?
Old world monkeys. What exactly is an old world monkey?
There's old world monkeys and new world monkeys. New world monkeys as in monkeys in like South America and stuff like that. And then monkeys in like Africa or China or whatever, India or whatever.
I learn something new about you every day.
Yeah, the monkeys have had some branching and evolution since the separation of the continents from Pangea, right?
Maybe we should do a review show on accurate and non-accurate monkeys, cartoon monkeys.
Yeah.
We'd probably run out of monkeys pretty quickly.
Yeah, I don't know that many monkey shows or movies.
Curious George.
Apu from...
Apu.
Or no, Abu.
Abu
is from The Simpsons.
Abu, yeah, from Aladdin.
Aladdin.
Dunstan. As for Hesden Dunstan checks in. He's not a cartoon, though.
He's also not a monkey.
Oh, right.
He's an ape.
He's an orangutan.
As I recall. I mean, colloquially, I think it's fine to call apes monkeys, but if we're speaking about accuracy and
then
then
you're going to be pedantic.
Right,
I've changed my mind about this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you suggested the prime pedantry or a prime time to use my pedantic nature.
Yeah, I guess I can't think of a ton of cartoon monkeys beside Curious George.
Yeah.
So that probably wouldn't be a very good podcast.
What if instead we do about a podcast about the accuracy of men in yellow hats?
Men in yellow hats or just men in yellow hats?
How many men in yellow hats do we know about, whether cartoons or not?
Not many, I don't think.
No, it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, there's just the man in the yellow hat, and then I'm out.
And he's got a yellow entire outfit. I don't know why they don't mention that. He's not just a yellow hat; his whole outfit's yellow. It's
because Curious George calls him the man in the yellow hat.
Right, but Curious George is fictional, so the writers decided to make him call him that.
You see, we're continuing with the pedantry.
Well, it's not pedantry; it's literary analysis.
Okay. George, we're going to do a literary analysis of Curious George.
Yeah. What idea was that we were just talking about?
Well, the original idea was reviewing children's TV shows.
Reviewing children's TV shows. Okay, so reviewing children's shows, possible idea. Pretty good idea, I think. Mm-hmm. My next idea is one that I'm a bit excited about.
All right.
The podcast would be called Good versus Soup.
Good versus Soup. Okay.
This is inspired by a thread on an internet forum like 15 years ago or something that I used to be on.
Okay.
Where people set up a tournament where you could vote between two things on the forum, and like each time something won, it moved on to the next bracket, right? Sort of standard tournament thing. And the idea was just vote for which is better. And they put up a list of a bunch of stuff, and the final round came down to, I think people suggested what should be on the list or whatever. Okay. The final round came down to good versus soup. And soup won. People think soup is better than, I guess, the whole entire concept of good, which logically doesn't make any sense, but emotionally does make sense, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I guess the idea is just an ongoing tournament where we rank, where we kind of argue about two things and which is just better. Not like who would win in a fight or anything like that. Obviously, that doesn't make sense for good and soup, but it's just like which thing we like better and think is better and should move on to the next bracket.
Okay, but this is a legitimately good idea. This is a legitimately good idea for a podcast.
Well, sue me. That's what I came up with. I think this podcast is a mix of good and terrible in a way that is exactly in my kind of wheelhouse, I guess, of like. Well,
I'm excited.
Finding good out of dumb things, I guess, or finding dumb out of good things, maybe.
I'm excited about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one we should talk more about.
Okay. Do we want to... I have more things I could bring up, but we could just move on. And this might end up being a little bit of a shorter episode because Rory is getting uppity right now. No, I love that. I love that, and I think it gets points for being... I guess it could involve some research, but off the bat, it's not going to... you're just going to pick a thing, right? So how would that work? Would we each pick a thing each week and bring it? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we would have, maybe we would make up an actual tournament with brackets, and that could be like a season of the show, right?
So it's like a fantasy football type thing.
Yeah, fantasy football or fantasy, any or basketball or whatever, any kind of bracketed thing, and we just, compare each set of things. Now, the question is, how do we generate what things should be on the list? Maybe we just start with what we think is the best things in the world.
Or we just pick a thing that we like that week.
Yeah, that would be easier, right? If we just pick a couple each of us picks a thing and then we argue about which one's better. And I guess we have to come to some agreement.
Right.
We have to either, if we don't come to some agreement, then we have to throw them out. No, that doesn't make sense. Because they're still good, even if we can't agree which is better, right?
So we come to it each week with, I don't know what yours is going to be, and you don't know what mine is going to be.
Right.
Should we try it out right now? Just think of something.
Sure. Okay, I have something. Do you have something?
I've got something.
Okay, what is it?
Babies.
Dinosaurs.
Okay.
Dinosaurs are better than babies. Sorry, they just are.
I mean, they're not. They're dead. They're all dead.
Well, many babies are also dead.
But they're not all dead.
Dinosaurs aren't all dead, actually, because all birds are dinosaurs.
Well, fair. All right.
There's all kinds of... Even if we just limit ourselves... Well, I think we should probably talk about non-avian dinosaurs, because then we're just saying birds versus babies, which I also think birds win, but...
All right. Well, would you rather hang out with a T-Rex or with our baby?
Would you rather ride a T-Rex or a baby?
Okay, fair.
If you're in a scrap and you need someone to help you out, do you want a raptor or a baby?
Well, I mean, is the raptor going to eat me after it helps me out?
No, it's helping you. Well, I mean...
Probably.
The baby would eat you if it could.
The baby would not eat me if it could.
The baby
I mean, if it was a baby lion, maybe.
The baby is literally sustained by sucking the energy out of you, basically.
What do you think breast milk is?
That's literally what it is. Your body spends energy. You eat food. Your body takes that energy and builds milk to give to him
but he's not,
for his own energy.
He's not sucking the energy out of me.
He is, in a slightly indirect way.
I mean, I feel dehydrated afterwards, but...
Here's another angle. Our baby's great, but other people's babies aren't great.
Well, that's not true. I've met a lot of good babies.
Some of them are good. I'm just saying, I don't want to hang out with anybody else's baby for more than a few minutes. Or maybe an hour or whatever, hanging out. But like...
I mean, I don't feel that way. I used to be a nanny.
But you liked...
I liked it.
You would do it for free? Because you were getting paid to be a nanny, right?
I mean, I would take care of a baby for free, sure.
I mean, your own baby, sure.
No, I would take care of I like babies.
Okay. But on the flip side, getting to hang out with a dinosaur would be like its own form of payment.
Unless the dinosaur eats you. Okay,
it's true. Dinosaurs are more dangerous than babies. That is one flaw of dinosaurs. But dinosaurs are just way cooler than babies. Dinosaurs come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them are bigger than our house. Some of them are smaller than our baby.
They're all dead.
Again, technically they're not all dead.
You said we were talking about non-avian dinosaurs.
Right, but I'm just saying that they're all dead thing is sort of like all babies turn into people. Or
I know, but I'm saying hanging out with a dinosaur, unless we're bringing dinosaurs back to life, hanging out with a dinosaur is not going to be very fun.
You mean the bones?
Yeah.
Like we don't go to museums specifically to hang out with dinosaur bones?
Yeah, but would you find it more interesting to hang out with a baby for an hour or a bunch of dinosaur bones for an hour?
I would go to a museum and hang out with dinosaur bones.
For an hour?
Yeah, you spend an hour in a dinosaur museum.
But not at the same dinosaur.
No, not at the same dinosaur. I mean, the baby's not entertaining you for the full hour. The baby probably falls asleep halfway through.
I mean, how old's the baby? Babies can stay awake for an hour.
They can, but chances are they might be at the point of falling asleep.
Our baby's been awake for about 45 minutes, and he looks nowhere near falling asleep.
Unfortunately, that is true. I guess we need to come up with what makes something. I think
also I think this is a podcast where we would have to have listeners vote.
I think so. Yeah.
Because we're not going to agree.
That's true. There's going to be some things we would probably agree about, but I think a lot of things we're never going to find common.
I know us pretty well, and I feel like when we have an opinion on a thing, we stick to it and argue it pretty vehemently.
I mean, okay, let's see if we can break that cycle a little bit. I can see where you're coming from on babies. Babies can be pretty cool. I love our little guy. I loved my other baby that I had, who's, Svetlana, that was on the podcast before. Those are some of the best times of your life. So I see what you're saying, and I also, there is a difference between us in that I don't like hanging out with anybody's baby nearly as much as you do. But I feel
that makes it sound like I just hang out with babies all the time, which I want to be clear. I don't. I really just hang out with our baby.
Yeah. But
I'm just saying I would.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know why you need to clarify. I don't, but I would.
But it doesn't, it sounds, well, when I say I would, I'm not like, please invite me to hang out with your baby. I need to hang out with babies.
Right.
Don't mean it like that. I just want to be clear.
You're not like stalking babies.
I'm not stalking babies' Instagrams or anything like that.
Okay, but like, what's cooler? Babies or dinosaurs? You see what I'm saying? Like, nobody's going to say babies over dinosaurs in terms of what's cooler.
Is the baby wearing sunglasses?
If the baby,
because that'd be pretty cool.
If the baby gets to wear sunglasses, the dinosaur gets to wear sunglasses.
All right. Well, if they're both wearing sunglasses, they're both pretty cool.
Right? But dinosaurs have the edge.
I mean, it does depend on the dinosaur, too.
What dinosaur is not cooler than a baby?
I don't know, plesiosaurus maybe?
Well, technically plesiosaurs are not dinosaurs, technically speaking. But leaving that aside,
I thought we weren't doing a pedantic podcast.
Leaving that aside, they're still cooler than babies. They're like the Loch Ness Monster, right?
Yeah, but I don't want to hang out with the Loch Ness Monster either.
I'm just saying they're cool. There's Pokemon that are basically a plesiosaur. Like, what's it called? Lapras and stuff. Like, plesiosaur. Why would you say plesiosaurs aren't cool? Why would they be less cool?
I wouldn't want to hang out with them. They're giant water monsters.
Well, dinosaurs are giant land monsters.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said it does depend on the dinosaur too, right? Because, like, I would want to hang out with, like, probably a Stegosaurus before I'd hang out with a T-Rex.
I don't think do you want to hang out with something is the only way to judge if it's cool or not, though.
But that's what you asked, right?
I asked what is cooler, dinosaurs or babies. I think you're lying.
Well, how do you decide which is cool? What makes something cool?
Well, exactly. It's ineffable. And by defining what it is, it becomes uncool automatically. But I'm saying I
think not dying is cool. And I feel like I have less chance of dying if I'm hanging out with a baby.
We're not talking about hanging out. I'm asking you a question. What's cooler, dinosaurs or babies? And I think you know that dinosaurs just factually are cooler than babies.
But you just said coolness is ineffable, so it can't be factual.
In the same way that soup can't really be better than the concept of good, right? But in a vibes-based mentality, soup can be better than good, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that
you can't try to parse and like dissect what coolness is to decide whether dinosaurs or babies are cooler. You just have to go on the vibes, and I think you're lying to yourself and to me if you don't say that dinosaurs are cooler than babies.
I feel very strongly about babies right now, though. At this point in my life.
Being cool isn't the only thing that's good or valuable. Babies can be great even if they're not cool. Or even if they are cool, but not as cool as something else. Right? I think my point is just that babies have some factors that work out in their favor. Cuddlier, less dangerous to hang out with.
I do think that you're not giving that point enough weight because I do want to spend more time with things that aren't trying to eat me.
Right. I get that. I'm just saying dinosaurs also have some things that I think you would agree are on dinosaur side. Dinosaurs are cooler than babies.
All right. Well, I'll give you the dinosaurs have maybe a greater cool factor than babies.
Yeah. And to be clear, being cooler doesn't mean they're better, right? The question is, are dinosaurs or babies better? The fact that dinosaurs are cooler, which you just agreed to, and I agreed that babies have pluses as well, right? Doesn't mean that the fact that they're cooler doesn't mean that they win automatically, right? Right. So
plenty of people who are cool are total dicks, right? So
true. Dinosaurs, I mean, well, some dinosaurs are probably nicer than others, I guess.
Some dinosaurs are dicks.
Some dinosaurs probably are dicks. I feel like all pterodactyls, pteranodons, or whatever, are dicks. I just get that sense.
Pterodactyls?
Yeah.
Well, our little pterodactyl's not a dick.
No. We do call Rory a pterodactyl. So that kind of gives a plus to both sides.
Right.
Again, technically, I just want to point out again for any people on the internet, yes, pterodactyls are not technically dinosaurs either. We don't care.
Don't add us.
Don't add us about that. Do add us about what you think is better, though, when you vote in the poll that we make at some point for this podcast, right? Yeah. I think you're right in that we have to argue our points as best as we can and then get people to vote, at least a handful of votes, which is better. And then the next week we can talk about who won.
Right. And then, so that thing will move on.
That will move on
to another round.
To the next. I guess the problem.
Okay, this seems genuinely fun.
A problem with that approach, though, is that now who comes up with the next thing to compare it? I guess whoever didn't suggest that thing, right? So I said dinosaurs. If dinosaurs win, you would try to come up with, or maybe we both. Maybe we would both try to come up with something because that could get a little bit combative in that, like,
dinosaurs kept winning.
If dinosaur kept winning and you couldn't come up with something that the listeners thought was better, it could be a little bit of a weird vibe.
Well,
right?
we could have a vote after that. Like, we each come up with a thing and then have them vote. I guess a versus within a versus. Like, we each come up with a thing that we think which we should be paired up against the dinosaur.
Right. So then we're getting back into sort of the more standard tournament kind of setup where you have a bunch of things compared and then you compare the winners of all those. Yeah. Versus this kind of, like, the other possibility we were talking about is more of a, I don't know if there's a name for it, but it's like first past the post voting almost or something, right? Like, you just keep comparing. Yeah. Yeah. So then we both bring in a new idea and vote on those ones. But then when do we go back and compare the winners of all the different pairs?
I think we just keep going. I think we just do it like that. We keep going. So the next episode we each come up with a thing, and whatever wins out of that, that's getting paired up against the dinosaur. And then whatever wins out of that, then we're going to have another pair and just do it that way.
So you're saying every other episode would be a new pair? Because otherwise you just keep going forever, right? Like,
what do you mean every other episode?
Well,
so let's say dinosaurs wins.
Actually, let's change it. Let's say babies wins, just because we've said dinosaurs wins a bunch of times and I don't want to bias the results, right?
So let's say babies won.
Babies win. The next week, I suggest corn dogs.
And I suggest geese.
Okay. And then we
now we have a new vote.
Right. We argue about corn dogs and geese. We have a new vote. Now we've got, from the previous episode, we've got babies. And now from this episode, we've got geese or corn dogs, whichever.
Right.
Corn dogs, right? The next week, do we do corn dogs versus babies?
Yes.
Okay, so then every other episode is a new set of things, and then every other episode is comparing to the winner of the previous one.
Right. Okay. Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Points against babies. Babies do cry.
Babies do cry. They make it hard to go out. They make it hard to go to the movies.
They make it hard to record a podcast.
They make it hard to record podcasts.
Dinosaurs would also make it hard to go to the movies.
That's true. If you had a dinosaur in your house, going to the movies would probably be a good idea. But if you had a dinosaur in your house, recording a podcast would be very difficult.
Right. A lot of things would be very difficult if you had a dinosaur in your house.
That's true. I mean, it depends on the dinosaur.
It does depend on the dinosaur.
Some dinosaurs are the size of your house. Some dinosaurs are little and could be more or less like having a parrot in your house. Technically, having a parrot in your house would also be a dinosaur in your house, but leaving that aside, non-avian dinosaurs, the cats could fight with a little dinosaur, potentially, or be friends with, or chase around, or whatever.
But probably not. Big dinosaur is probably going to eat your cats.
Yeah, after it eats you.
After it eats you.
Or maybe it'll eat your cats while you're at the movies. And I like the idea of there being a dinosaur in our house, and we're just like, we got to go to the movies, and hopefully by the time the movie's over and we come back,
this problem will have solved itself.
The dinosaur will have left or died or gone back through the portal into the past that it came through.
I tried this. I tried this when I was a kid, when there would be like a giant spider in the bathroom and the window would be open, and I would close the bathroom door and hope that the spider would crawl out the window. Didn't work. Didn't work. I thought the spider crawled out the window. I went to take a bath and spider crawled in the bathtub with me.
Yeah. See, the thing is about that is that outside is cold and inside is warm. So even if there's windows open, the spider probably wants to stay
that's
inside.
what it was. This bathtub really
The
warm.
bathtub very warm. Spider-like. Spider-like. Spider-like at the warm. And also...
I was shuddering at the memory because it really was traumatic.
Yeah. Well, it would have been a different situation if it was a dinosaur in the bath.
Yeah.
But...
if I was reaching for a shampoo bottle and saw a dinosaur trying to get in the bath with me, that would also be very traumatic.
Again, really depends on the dinosaur. It could be a friendly dinosaur. It could be like a friendly stegosaurus. They're probably not friendly. But, some kind of non-meat eater.
Yeah. Hopefully tiny enough that it's not going to crush me in the bathtub. That would be traumatic.
Right. Hopefully it even fits in the bathroom.
I think we're close to reaching the end of our time here.
Should we argue a little bit about corn dogs versus geese?
Yeah, let's quickly talk about corn dogs versus geese.
Okay. I said corn dog, so I guess I'm arguing for corn dog. I guess we could end up agreeing, like, we aren't hearing the opponent, the other thing before we say our thing,
right,
necessarily. So we could end up agreeing that the other thing's better. But
yeah,
corn dogs, if we go by who do you want to hang out with more, I would say corn dogs. Corn dogs are delicious. I want to eat one right now, in fact, now that I mentioned it. It's also a good name for a cat.
Well, crucial question. Are you including vegetarian corn dogs?
Sure.
Okay, because
anything that tastes
because
like
otherwise there's no way I'm voting for corn dog.
Well, right. Anything that tastes like a corn dog, or I'd go so far as to say, like, anything that's corn dog adjacent even, I would count.
I mean, corn dogs are pretty good. And I just said geese to be funny.
Yeah.
And also because you're wearing a shirt with geese on it.
True.
Now the untitled goose.
Yeah, geese are fun and cool. Geese are cooler than corn dogs, I would say.
They're not really, actually, though. I mean, my dad had geese and they were assholes.
Well, no, they're assholes, but they're cool. They're cooler than a corn dog. Corn dog's good, but it's not cool.
Right.
Right? There's, even if you put sunglasses on a corn, okay, that would be kind of cool, but...
Everything is cool. I mean, a goose with sunglasses would be much cooler than a corn dog with sunglasses.
Right, exactly. Because if one gets it, they both get the sunglasses, so you can't really judge that. But, so I would say geese are just cooler than corn dogs, in the same way that dinosaurs are cooler than babies. But that doesn't necessarily mean geese are better, right? Again, coolness is only one factor. So geese fly. Corn dogs can't fly.
They lay eggs.
Geese lay eggs. They fly. They can navigate south or whatever. They have like geolocation powers or whatever. GPS powers.
Corn dogs won't try to bite the shit out of you, though. So they've got that going.
Corn dogs can't beat you in a fight, which geese maybe can. Corn dogs aren't aggressive in general, in my experience at least.
Corn dogs won't poop all over your yard.
Corn dogs might make you poop all over the yard, depending on what all's in that corn dog. I don't know. What are you leaning towards, geese or corn dogs? Because I'm actually.
I feel like geese bring me more joy in general. So I think, because I'm going by vegetarian corn dogs, which the only ones I eat are the Morningstar ones, and they're all right. They're all right.
Yeah, I would count the corn.
I don't feel passionate about corn dogs.
There's a place that we get food from called like Ugly Corn Dogs or something. Ugly Donuts and Corn Dogs or something like that.
Something like that.
And included in what they sell as corn dogs are things that don't actually have the dog part in it, right? It's like a corn thing with like cheese inside.
Basically like a giant mozzarella stick.
Like a big mozzarella stick on a stick.
And that's pretty good.
And that's good, right? So I would count that.
But if I'm like
as corn dogs.
If I'm going to like with the Marie Kondo type method for determining what thing is better,
what sparks joy?
A goose sparks more joy for me than a corn dog.
It's interesting because I would say in the abstract, I probably would agree, but in like my day-to-day life, I hardly ever encounter or think about geese. I mean, I think about geese because I'm wearing...
You're literally wearing geese right now.
I have more than one shirt covered in geese.
Yeah, you have multiple.
And I have played the goose game, and geese in general are cool.
We had that goose statue there to hang our keys from.
We like geese. Geese are good. I prefer a white goose, I guess, to a Canada goose, but
yeah.
Either way, geese are pretty cool. But in my day-to-day life, I'm way more likely to get a little joy, i.e. like dopamine hit, I guess, from corn dogs than geese.
I can see that. I think maybe I don't get quite the same amount of joy from a corn dog as you do.
Yeah.
In terms... Now, if we were saying like geese versus macaroni and cheese, it would be a much harder decision for me.
Okay, interesting. So if we were doing corn dog versus mac and cheese, you would definitely give it to mac and cheese.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
Okay. That's fair. Okay, well, I guess that's another one we would have to kind of leave up to the voters.
Yeah.
The voting public.
to
to
It'd be interesting to see what came out on top.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's actually, I agree, kind of a good idea for a podcast.
It's a good idea for a podcast, and maybe we'll do it.
I'm also surprised at how long we've been recording because it's longer than we usually do.
I mean, it's a good idea, clearly.
Yeah, like time flies when you're
arguing about dinosaurs and babies.
Yeah, totally.
As the saying goes.
Remember, time flies when you're arguing about dinosaurs and babies. Rory is getting past his limit, I think, of time we have to do this podcast. He's been remarkably quite chill, although I'm sure you've heard him a little bit, and he's wiggling around quite a bit right now. But yeah, so I think we're going to wrap up here. Maybe we'll make a poll on our social media when this comes out, and people can vote on dinosaurs versus babies, and maybe geese versus corn dogs, and then the winners of those, I guess, if we get around to that. We don't have those social media things set up yet as I'm recording this, so we will probably add in a little thing here to tell you where to go for that. Hey friends, as promised, I'm here to let you know how you can follow us on social media if you are interested in doing so. You can find us at our internet homepage at www.coolpodcast.website. That URL again is coolpodcast.website, where you will find our social media links. Right on that Cool Podcast website. All right, back to the episode. Thanks to you for listening, and like us on the things, on the Apple Podcast. Leave us reviews. I don't know.
Unless you didn't like it, then don't. We prefer positive comments.
Please say
our egos are fragile.
Yes. We will read all the comments and cry if they're mean.
All right.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
What was that podcast about? I'm trying to figure it out. What was that podcast about? Could you perhaps help me out? I've just been slapped with a trout. Didn't catch what that was about.